back to another QA session. I'm Mark with Dark Horse Fitness. I want to thank you for coming and clicking on my video. Please remember to click on the link, like, subscribe, post your comments or questions below. Let's get started. How many sets per week should I do for a body part? Well, that's going to depend on a couple different factors. One is which body part, your level of training experience, your intensity, and your diet. One way to look at it is to putting all of these into a logbook. Then from there, you've got kind of a baseline of where you stand and where you're starting. Usually what I suggest is look at your goal. Then map out 1 or 2 mesocycles over about the next 45 to 60 days. That's going to kind of give a good idea of a starting point and an end point, and even fitting in a deload towards the end. Then I'd say start with 8 sets for your larger body parts, quads, hamstrings, and back, and chest. 6 sets for shoulders, biceps, triceps, and even calves. Then, based upon your goals and your mesocycle setup, every few weeks you can progress in volume, adding a set to a 1 or 2 exercises. Just depends, everybody grows differently. But when you look at it, don't compare yourself to someone else. I've had some clients that they train legs once a week and they're doing 8 sets for quads, 8 sets for hamstrings, 4 sets for calves, and they just grow. They're just a beast. And I have another client that they've got to do 3 times the volume to get the same level of results, both of which have been training the same amount of time, but genetic components, outside factors like stress come into play that can affect exactly how your body's going to respond. You just need to find out what works for you. Next question. Heavy dumbbell flies hurt my shoulders. What should I do? Well, usually this comes from lifting too heavy a weight, and the arms usually come too far back. As opposed to stopping at 90, they'll keep going, getting an extreme stretch into the shoulder. That can actually affect your rotator cuff. Usually what I suggest is start with the pec deck. Learn the actual exercise and the range of motion. Stop when your elbows go back to about 90 degrees and focus on the contraction. Start with contracting the chest muscle, and as it comes through the range of motion, continue that contraction all the way through. Not focusing on pushing the hands together, rather making sure that the contraction in the chest stays. Otherwise, you're more likely to engage your shoulders and lats, taking away from the muscle you're actually trying to work. I've been out of training for almost a year, thank you coronavirus. Where should I start? Usually what I suggest is go with a full body workout, 2 to 3 times a week. Has a small cardiovascular component as well as a fat burning component built right in. Keep your reps about 12 to 20, 2 to 3 sets per body part. Maybe add in a set or 2 every week, 2 weeks. Focus on getting blood into the muscle. Don't worry about how much you can lift. Focus on your form. Make sure your diet is set from day 1. Put it into your logbook. Make protein a priority. Start with 1 gram per pound. Also, add in cardio 2 to 3 times per week. This will aid in recovery. This will aid in cardiovascular health. Start at 15 minutes, and based upon your goal, increase the frequency or the amount of time per session. Do I have to lift heavy to gain muscle? Heavy is going to be relative. You could have someone that's lifting 225 and that's heavy for them. Someone else, 405, same squat exercise, but yet they're able to do 20, 25 reps. There seems to be plenty of professionals out there that lift on the lighter side in comparison to their counterparts, even at the professional level. They generally have an excellent mind-muscle connection, and they're able to contract the muscle through the entire range of motion. Another thing that they do is if you watch their rep speed, it's slow and controlled, so they make sure that they're taxing that specific muscle that they're trying to work. They're not recruiting out, say, engaging the shoulders and the triceps when they're trying to do bench press. Here's an interesting one. I stopped eating meat to cut calories, gained 10 pounds in less than 3 months. What happened? Well, when you're not getting enough protein into your body, it'll cannibalize itself. Basically, breaking down the protein in the muscles that you've built and using it in the amino acid form for cells and hair and other recovery components at the cellular level. Less muscle means a slower metabolism. And if you continue with the same amount of calories, well, you don't have the same, let's say, energy consumption and burn that you did before. You're going to put on adipose tissue. It's not saying that you have to eat meat. There's plenty of plant-based proteins out there. I like legumes because they're 50% protein, 50% carbs. So it's a good ratio to add those in. I like the chicken, beef, and protein from the meat. But again, there are plant-based solutions that you can go ahead and incorporate into your diet so that you can have the protein that you need. That being the main part of this message is if you're going to move from diet that normally has meat in it, make sure that you're replacing it with another source of protein with as close to an amino acid profile as meat has. Again, there's several other options out there. You just need to do some research. Are bent over rows the best for a thick back? Say it depends. The problem I see with most people doing this exercise is, one, way too much weight. Two, the angle which they're standing is greater than 45 degrees, and in some cases they're almost upright. The muscles that they're engaging at that point are biceps, traps, teres minor, rear delt, not what they're actually think that they're working. Usually what I suggest, if you're going to use the exercise, stay between 90 degrees to 7 degrees. So you're almost bent over facing the floor to a slight angle. Next, I'd say drop the weight. Third component of this, when you pull the weight into your chest, make sure that you're contracting first. The arms should almost drag behind the movement. They shouldn't start the movement. Hold that contraction for a good second. Feel that squeeze in the back. You can either do overhand or underhand. Everybody's a little bit different so that they can go ahead and get the maximum squeeze into the back. Try that for a while, and I think you're going to like the result.